Yes, man. Wayne Lonesome. I'm live. I'm live. I'm live here. Yes, with my co-host Rattigan, alongside the finance minister, Dr. Nigel Clarke. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Wayne. Thank you for having me on your program. Um, my first time, and thank you for having me.
Yes, man. All right. So first of all, we could just get into it, right? I wanted to give us some quality some clarity in the FBI saga. We need to get some quality clarification on that first of all.
But I wouldn't call it a saga, Wayne. It is what I stated when I gave my policy address. I
Yes.
believe that would have been in late January, in the January 24th. I can't remember the exact date.
Mm.
When I said that the investigative authorities, in particular speaking about the Financial Investigation Division, had uh, reached out, written to, contacted the FBI for assistance in this SSL probe. Um, that is the fact then, and it remains a fact. And I think you've seen the statement that both the Constabulary Force, along with CTOC and FID, have put out.
Mm. So what following along the way with ASP Anthony McCracken, because he came out on Friday and make a statement, and the statement it really get people up, so so we a lot of questions swirling around.
Yes, I can understand the questions that would have swirled from that statement, but both CTOC and FID have issued a follow-up written statement that has been widely disseminated, and I think that clarifies the matter. I don't know if your listeners had the opportunity to see that statement, and I don't want to speak for FID and CTOC, but in that statement they made it very clear that Mr. McLaughlin was referring to local aspects of the investigation and not the wider SSL probe. And I think in that statement, they reiterated what has been in the public domain and what I've previously said, that the authorities have reached out to the FBI for assistance. And they went further than that. I mean, those are not my words. So I don't want to be, if you could inform if you don't have a copy of it, I can send a statement to you and you can inform your readers. They went even beyond what I said in providing
Get a
information.
copy. I think I Radigan get a copy also.
Yeah.
Yes. Radigan.
Yes, sir. Mr. Minister, good evening and welcome.
How are you, sir?
Um, Good to see you again. We met, I think, back in 2020. I think it was 2018 at the Pegasus. We were
Right,
introduced by a gentleman. I won't mention his name, but
right,
all
right.
right. No,
Small world.
right. No, you said that ACP McLaughlin, um, the statement that he made was clarified by a joint report saying that he was referring to the local investigation. No, it's kind of awkward because that's exactly what he said. He said that the JCF was spearheading the local investigation and that the FBI was not involved, and should there come a time when international tentacles are identified, then and only then will the FBI be invited. So that stands in stark contrast to your statement where you said that the FBI was intensifying its involvement beyond what you thought, and that the investigation was solidified. So the question then is this: how is it that you're talking about the FBI, having being intensifying their investigation and having solidified their investigation, and then you have the ACP saying, well, they're not here and they won't come here until we
Yeah,
invite them.
it was a very unfortunate remark, but I think the statement from, and Wayne, I don't know if you could put it up for your listeners to see the statement from the JCF and
Yes.
FID, right? Just put it up for your listeners to see what they said. It was an unfortunate remark last Friday, which led
Mm.
to the kind of questions that you're asking, Mr. Rattigan. But if you read what they put out yesterday, I believe that it clarifies it.
Rattigan, read. You have the statement. Can you read it from me, Rattigan?
Just,
So hold on a second.
Yeah,
and this is not a statement from me. This is a statement
no, from the giant. I think
yeah,
I
from
sent it to
this
you.
from the a minister is responsible for policy.
Yes.
We're not involved in operations, and
All right.
this is from the Joint Security Forces.
All right. Can
One
you give
second.
me the
I'm getting to it. Hold on.
all right, okay, Rattigan.
If
Yes.
you have it, oh wait a minute.
You have it, man. You have it. Can you give me the description of the FID?
Well, I mean, anybody can look it up online. I wouldn't be giving you anything that isn't public information. I mean, the Financial Investigations Division
Mm.
is the law enforcement arm that investigates financial crimes, and in particular, money laundering and related crimes.
Okay. It do forfeitures and things like that, right? From Proceed of Crime Act.
Correct.
And
Correct. With it enforces the Proceeds of Crime Act and uses that as a tool to secure or to ensure that persons can't profit from their criminal activities. I'm just
oh,
looking up online just to read
okay,
for
so
you.
it came into being in 2002.
Correct. So let's just read from their website. FID's main objectives are to investigate allegations of money laundering, financial crime, and corruption in tandem with other national regional law enforcement agencies, and to detect, deter, and aid the prosecution of offenses committed under the various acts dealing with financial crimes, thereby resulting in a reduction of the actual and expected profits that would evolve from such corrupt activities.
Okay, okay, and they work with international partners also, right? Yes, on the website.
Absolutely. Yes,
Oh,
absolutely. And that's not a secret. That would be public information. Yes.
okay,
Because I mean the world, Jamaica is an island in a large world, and the nature of financial crime, money is fluid, money can move, and therefore it's necessary to use a network approach if you're serious about you know going after these kinds of financial crimes.
mm,
And as we said, Wayne, as I said in my policy address, no stone will be left unturned, and the government will support the investigative authorities to follow this matter wherever it may lead. And that is why we have the security forces have reached out to the FBI for assistance in this matter. And as I also would have updated the Jamaican public, we have reached out to one of our international partners to assist us with identifying forensic auditing resources. A forensic audit resource has been identified, and we are now in the process of the necessary steps towards making sure that we can enter into a contract with that forensic auditor for them to assist with investigation. This goes back 13 years.
mm,
So we want to bring to bear all of the tools, all of the technology that
mm.
will be necessary to unravel this. As I said, no stone will be left unturned. You're going to see how this thing plays out, and you're going to remember that I gave you that commitment.
All right, so
Now,
we're all into that commitment, right? We're
huh?
all into that commitment.
You
All
can
right.
hold me that commitment that no
Yes.
stone will
Good.
be left unturned, right?
All right.
Now, the Minister of Finance is not the one doing the investigation, not the
I
one
know. I know
conducting.
that. We know that. We know
That
that.
would be a conflict, right?
Yes,
The
we know
Minister
that.
of Finance gives policy, and the policy direction is no stone left unturned. The policy is follow this wherever it should lead. The policy on this is get international help to get to the bottom of this. Okay, those are the three policy directives, and we stand behind and support the security forces in enforcing that policy.
Okay, good. Rattigan.
Yeah, I haven't found it yet. If you can find it,
Okay,
then
let me I'm
well,
gonna
let me
send
ask.
Make
Let
a
me,
send.
best
Make
way
a,
to send it to you.
no,
I don't want
I will
either of
send it. Hold
your.
on. Make a send it to Rattigan.
yeah,
But
send it to me, please. But in the
right.
meantime, Minister, let me ask you this question because I was an FBI agent for 3 decades.
Yes.
And this is kind of like an anomaly. The FBI, in order for them to work, let me explain it to you like this. If I'm sitting in squad A and there are FBI agents sitting in squad B, there are two principles that govern the transfer of information: collaboration, coordination. And one is we must have the proper clearances. And we do. Every FBI agent has a top secret clearance. But there is a second part to that that's of great significance, and that is the need to know. And the way it's set up, if I start accessing someone's file and they're not on my squad,
But
immediately.
Mr. Rattigan, you no, I cannot spell everything out here.
I know.
You understand that, but you can just think about it and think about where the need to know would come from.
I know.
Okay?
But,
Just,
but, but
we
listen
don't
to
have
the
to spell
question.
it. It
Listen
would
to the question.
impact. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. The question is this. When you bring a I've never seen it. I'm not saying it's never happened, but I've never seen the FBI collaborate in a significant investigation with private industry, right? Working alongside them. I've seen where they've accepted information from private industry, but not work alongside. So when you said that your international partners had identified you were seeking forensic assistance from a private firm, and they had identified a private firm, and so you were seeking to engage that firm. The question I have for you is this: will that firm be expected, assuming that there are FBI agents working the case, will that firm be expected, at least on the part of the Jamaican government, to work alongside the FBI?
Okay. So we are there, as you can understand, in a case like this, you need forensic auditors to unravel the complexities of it, going back 13 years. How exactly was this carried out? How was each and every single person who was defrauded? How were they defrauded? When? Where did the proceeds go? How did they cover their tracks? Now, Jamaica has a team of forensic experts and forensic auditors that are assigned even at FID and in other areas of the investigative landscape, the government's investigative landscape. What we're saying here is that because of the nature of this case, we might need some help. The forensic auditing backup and expertise is not to be confused with what the FBI has been asked to do. Okay, and I don't want to say necessarily any more. There are aspects of this in which Jamaican authorities have jurisdiction, and the forensic auditing help will help for them to unravel what happened and to be able to put a case together, to be able to move forward, and whoever is culpable and whoever aided and abetted and assisted would be within their sort of target or within their target. So I'm not at all suggesting that by seeking two avenues of help, I'm not suggesting that those entities will necessarily work together. I mean, I see where you're going, but that's not what the plan is, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
We need a forensic audit assistance to help our local forensic auditors in unraveling the fraud that occurred right here in Jamaica. The FBI is a part of an international sort of network that can assist us in very important areas that I don't want to spell out on
I
this
understand.
program. Yeah.
And here's why I'm a little bit confused, because, and maybe you can disabuse me of my confusion, because the FBI does provide forensic assistance. I've worked overseas many years in different parts of this world, and if you come to the FBI, the Legat office, and you say, look, we need some assistance here, then they'll you can ask for, they'll roll out the menu, and you can say, okay, I need this and that.
Yeah,
but
Rattigan, your questions, are better directed to the law enforcement persons. You're gonna, as I said, I am the policy. The minister's a policy. What are the policies? There are three policies. One, we're gonna leave no stone unturned. What's the second policy? Two, we're gonna get international help, right?
Yes.
And the third policy is, well, I gave you no
Two.
stone unturned.
International help.
We're going to get
International.
international help,
Mhm.
right? And we're going to follow this wherever it leads. I guess 3 and 1 are very similar. So that's a policy direction. Okay. And then the policy direction is, look, you have to support the technocrats with resources.
Mhm.
So how are we supporting with resources? We're saying we're we're going to put money behind this investigation, one, and two, we're going to get international help. Now, the investigative authorities then have to figure it out. They have to use the resources to implement the policy. And what you're asking me, the question that you're asking me, is how are you going to implement the policy? That is a question I would be treading on other people's territories if
Oh.
I sought to give you an answer to that.
Okay,
Can you
but here's
understand that? And I am making myself available to you and to your program, but you must, I think one of the
I
things
do.
that
I
it's
do.
important to accept is that there are
Yeah.
limits to authority, right? A minister has a limit to his authority. There's a circumference of authority that a minister operates in. And that circumference is the circumference of policy. And we have
Okay.
given policy direction. We have made the policy very clear. It is for the investigative authorities to implement that policy and to deliver results.
Okay. Now you have a sphere of influence as a minister, and so you don't act within the confines of just a Ministry of Finance. You can actually reach across ministries and make suggestions to other ministers. Um, is that true?
Yes, we
Okay.
collaborate. It's
Good.
joint government. We collaborate.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, since you're not the appropriate person to deal with law enforcement issues, although I found it strange that they
No. Rattigan, this is what I said to you,
Mhm.
that when it comes to the operationalizing
Right.
of policy,
Right.
right, then it is better that you ask operational questions or direct operational questions to those responsible for operations, i.e., those who head the various investigative and law enforcement entities. That's what I'm saying,
Right.
right? But I've spoken on the policy approach to this, and I have the ambit to do it because FID is involved, and FID is within the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service.
The FID, correct me if I'm wrong. It's also it's either a quasi or an investigative body. Am I correct?
It is an investigative body.
Okay, good. And it's within your province.
It's operationally independent, but it's within the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service.
Okay. Now let's look at the policies you just enumerated. You enumerated no stones unturned. And to be honest with you, and I hope you take this lightheartedly. When I hear no stones unturned, I think about Dr. Carl Williams, former police commissioner. He said it every week, and stones were left.
Don't mix me with that.
No.
Don't mix me with that. You give me.
Take it lightheartedly. Take it lightheartedly.
I take it lightheartedly.
All right. But here's the thing. Right, no stones unturned, international help, and follow leads. Now, let's look at, well, we can discuss international help, but follow leads. I'm looking at it from the FBI's perspective. We've been trained that you follow leads to their logical conclusion, wherever they take you. And so earlier you said the FBI was asked to do certain things. Now, I know you don't want to go into details, and I don't expect you to, but I've never, especially where you may have U.S. citizens involved, I've never seen where the FBI has been directed to conduct a certain. But hold on a second. Let me finish. Yeah. What I'm going to ask you to, because you don't operate in a vacuum, right? And you said it's part of your ministerial duties is to reach out across to other ministers as well and discuss all kinds of issues, all kinds of initiatives. No stones unturned, international help, follow leads. This would be best, and this is just my advice to you. I'm not asking you a question. This is just my advice. And whoever's listening, they can take it for whatever it's worth. This type of investigation with these policies would be best addressed in an intelligence center or fusion center construct. Now, I have spoken to the Prime Minister personally and directly years ago about a fusion center because I thought that Jamaica was being left behind when they operate in a reactive mode. The world has moved on from reactive policing to proactive and in some instances predictive. And I was thinking along those lines. But the way it stands right now, Jamaica just I think it was last month, they announced that they're having a fusion center. They're going to open up a fusion center. I still don't know what they mean by that, but what I'm suggesting to you is that, and your colleagues, is that the best way to address something like this and going forward, if you're talking about intelligence driven investigations, is to
Fusion
do it,
Center.
yeah, is to do it in an intelligence or a fusion center
Yeah.
construct.
Yes.
And that's that. So I'm not asking a question, I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true
Yeah,
out. Yes.
I,
Yes.
I take your point there, Rattigan. You have a lot of subject matter expertise in this area that I don't have. That's something I'm happy to pass on to colleagues, for their consideration. But I, respect your experience over 3 decades, and I think what you're saying, has a lot of merit to it.
Now, let me ask you a question that I don't have a lot of experience in, but I've been told to ask you this by my friends from Firehouse, Waterhouse. All right. Um, during the JLP conference late last year, the Prime Minister made a speech where he said that one of the mandates of the JLP is to move people en masse from being poor to the middle class. I mean, I heard him say that. No, I haven't seen a plan. And the poor people that I've spoken to, they said they don't know anything about the plan. I don't know if this is your domain, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you know of such a plan, and what does such a plan entail?
Right. Okay. So we have been focused on jobs, okay, as the means through which persons can climb the economic ladder. For the first time in Jamaica's history, we have a ministry that's dedicated towards job creation. And we have been successful at that, the data suggests. Jamaica has experienced record low unemployment, the lowest unemployment in our history. And we did it, we've achieved a number of record lows. We achieved a record low before COVID. And in the recovery, we achieved another record low in terms of unemployment. So scores and thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs have been created through the policies of the administration. And you will agree with me, I believe, that what keeps people away from the middle class is if they remain unemployed and remain unemployed for long periods of time. And the policies of the government have created, as I mentioned, tens of thousands of jobs in construction, in tourism, in BPO, in agriculture, and in other areas. That is not a panacea. It doesn't mean that we have arrived. It doesn't mean that we can rest on our laurels. But on the journey of development, as we step up the economic ladder of development, sorry about that. As we step up the economic ladder of development, it is critically important that persons can achieve some level of financial security through gaining and retaining a job. Okay, so that's the first part of you know, sort of personal economic transformation and climbing economic ladder.
Um, Dr. Nigel
Yes.
Clarke, can you tell me the number of Jamaican job, the workforce right now?
Right now, okay. If I give you,
Right.
I'm going to give you a rough estimate that I can double check by going online very quickly. But our jobs are just below 1.3 million in terms of
1.3, and
yeah.
and it's like 800.
Wait a minute. I don't want to. I'm saying just below. So
Yes, I know
1.3
1.2
to
something. Yes,
the
I know, I
nearest
know.
100,000. The nearest
Yes,
100,000.
and then we have 800 and something thousand out of a job, right?
We have so the way we measure unemployment and the way we measure unemployment, we've been measuring it since we started measuring unemployment, right?
Mm.
Statin is a part of a global network of statistical agencies that is adheres to a UN convention for economic and social statistics. Um, the in terms of jobs, sorry, I'm going to pull something up.
Hmm.
Let's see if I can get it here. In terms of jobs, we look at the number of persons in the labor market, in the labor force, and the number of persons in the labor force who have jobs and the number who don't have jobs. Okay, so there are going to be adults that are not in
Yes.
the labor force. That's called a participation rate. But Jamaica's labor participation rate is about 65%. I'm giving you rough numbers. I'm talking off the top of my head. Please don't kill me if I'm off by
No,
one or
no, man,
two.
no, that's yes.
Right. So we are about 65%, which is in line with where the United States is. It's not every adult who is looking for a job. There are many adults who are in school. There are many adults who decide to take care of a child. There are many, and that's a job, by the way. There are many adults who
Oh.
decide to take care of a loved one. Okay. So the labor participation rate is the proportion of the adult population who are in the job market. And then we look at the proportion of adults in the job market and the number of those who have jobs, and that gives you your unemployment or employment rate. And the unemployment rate is about 6.5% the last time it was measured. Now, and our labor participation rate is similar to what exists in other countries, i.e., it's not as if, Jamaica has a problem with, our labor force is a small percentage of our workforce, of our adult population. The labor participation rate is quite similar to what obtains in other parts of the world, including the United States.
So what you going to do? Let us just ask the next question, Rattigan. What you going to do right now with this deficit of the import against the export, in the country, because this holding back the country, and it's us in the diaspora really holding up the country. We are failed to hold up the country, and that's true, right? We need to turn it around. What we're going to do to turn that around? Because we cannot import $4 or $5 billion worth of, I call it mostly junk, and then export like $1 billion. It cannot sustain this way. We're going the wrong direction. What we're going to do about that? We need to start from that.
Yeah, I'm glad you've asked that question. So just to bring your listeners up to date,
yes,
in talking about international trade, you have two things. You have goods, which are physical things, right? Pineapples and computers and chairs and desks and so on, right? The goods. And then you have services, and services are things that you can't touch, like a vacation or a financial service or an insurance service or logistics. And you have to look at both goods and services when you look at international trade. Right? Jamaica tends to dominate in services. So when you look at the good side of the equation, we import about approximately, I'm giving you round numbers, $5 billion worth of stuff in terms of goods, cars and clothes and food and so on. Right? Of that 5 billion, Wayne, 2 billion US of it relates to energy commodities. Right? So propane, butane, petrol,
I know,
kerosene, etc. Right? 2 billion US dollars in goods. And our exports is about 1 billion US dollars, leaving a trade deficit in goods of 4 billion. However, when it comes to services, right, and our big service is tourism, we can bring in as much as 3 billion US dollars.
2.3 billion, yes.
2.5, yeah, 2.5
yes,
to 3 billion.
Yes.
Yeah. Of foreign exchange from services, from tourism alone. And then we have remittances that delivers another.
That is us, right?
2 billion, which is you in the diaspora, right?
Yes.
So that's how we kind of keep things in balance. And I might have my numbers off a little bit. The trade deficit might be 5 billion and not 4. It might be closer to 5 billion on the goods deficit. So you add, say, 2.5 billion for tourism, and then you add another 2 billion for remittances. You close the deficit a little, quite a bit. So what is the strategy? Well, the strategy, first of all, has to be to broaden and deepen, right? By deepen, we have to look at the areas that we earn foreign exchange. What are the big areas? Tourism, BPO, and all right, so tourism might be 2.5 billion, BPO probably 700 million. I'm giving you rough numbers. We have bauxite alumina, which is like 300 million. We have agriculture, and then you have a lot of smaller areas, right? And what we have to do is to make sure we grow each of these while diversifying into newer areas. BPO is relatively new, and we have been able to grow it to the level of 700 million US dollars of export income. That's export of services. And there's every indication that that can grow even faster. I've heard Minister Hill with his ambitions for that industry as we go up the value chain and offer much higher valued services in that area. We can earn more, and more can be retained here in Jamaica. We will also want to make sure that as far as tourism is concerned, we have greater linkages where more of the stuff that's used in our hotels and our restaurants are made here, right? Because tourism now would become a local export industry, if you understand what I mean, right? You be selling to hotels is like exporting. And if we can increase those linkages, it would reduce the import dependency of tourism, which is pretty high at the moment. And then we're going to have to make sure that that new industries come on stream, and logistics is a great example. And I know that's also in Minister Hill's ministry, and he's been working assiduously at that to take advantage of Jamaica's natural position and the policies of the government so far. We've brought in private investment to our airports through the divestment of it, of $100 million investment to widen. That's his Norman Manley, that is. We're doing a expansion in Sangster as well. And there's an expansion in the transshipment port as well as in both ports in Kingston. So we have a real chance in the logistics area. There's a program that the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce is spearheading to bring investments into the Cayman Special Economic Zone, which would offer the potential to provide logistics services to shipping lines, to companies that need to reach markets and have to transit through our waters. So it has to be a multi-pronged approach, Wayne, to plug that gap that you're talking about. But I encourage you to look at the gap, goods and services. Jamaica, is going to have a comparative advantage in services. And so to the extent that we can make ourselves more secure with foreign exchange, making sure that we maximize on the services opportunity will be a key part of the strategy. And may I also mention, Wayne, that a defensive part of the strategy is going to have to be to ensure that our dependence on foreign imported energy commodities is dramatically reduced and curtailed. That is very, very important.
And also foreign food. Because we're supposed to put back the farmers and work. Too much idle lands, we need to do that.
Yes, the food import bill is
you're the finance minister, you need to talk to some of these big companies, because I see them do a lot of things and a lot of things out there and then carry it in. But them supposed to build back the production belt right there. Like we start do that. You're doing cock soup. It needs the seasoning. Turn back to St. Elizabeth. Turn back to these people, make them start do the thyme and the onion. Start use up back these things. Put for people them and work. We need to start do that.
Absolutely. I don't know if you have seen the numbers on agriculture growth recently, but the last 12 months we've had massive growth in agriculture. I don't know if I could pull up the statistics for you so I can recite them here. Very encouraging results in agriculture. In the last budget, when we made the largest capital investment in agriculture that has been made maybe in the last 15 years. And if you look at the budget that has been tabled, this year is another record high in terms of capital expenditure in agriculture for irrigation and for projects that can improve the productivity and profitability of agriculture. So I am aligned with what you're saying. The government is aligned with what you're saying, that there's a future for us in agriculture, and we can get a lot of employment out of it and a lot of economic growth, and we just need to make the investments in it, and that's exactly what we're doing.
We need to buckle up and deal with this as an emergency, and it's serious. Yes, Ratty. Yes, Ratty.
Yes, Mr. Minister, I found the report, and I'd like to walk you back to it. It says here, one of the paragraphs, that on Friday, February 17, 2023, the head of CTOC held a press briefing in respect to the arrest and charge of Gina and Panton for fraud, where he's quoted as saying the FBI was not involved. However, he was referring specifically to the local aspects of the fraud squad investigation that led to the initial charges against Ms. Panton and not to the wider dimensions of the SSL probe. We apologize for any misunderstanding that may have been caused in this matter. Okay, now let's look at what he actually said. He said that the investigation, didn't say the local investigation, he said the investigation is led by the JCF. And he said, and we have the capacity to investigate, and we've done so successfully. And if assistance is required, if there's an international aspect to it, we will invite the FBI and ask for assistance. Now, the thing about it is this. This is the head of CTOC, and they're an integral part of this investigation. And so it's kind of odd that he would make this statement, because you would assume that he would know what's going on, because it sounds like, reading this, it sounds like they're hiding things from him, because they said he's not aware of the wider scope of SSL. And the question is this: if the JCF is if a component of the JCF that has a tremendous responsibility in this investigation is not aware of the wider scope of it, then what does that portend?
Just get cut off. Just get cut off. Just see Dr. Nigel Clarke just get cut off just now. Waiting on him to rejoin. Yes. Could see what happened. Dr. Nigel Clarke just get cut off, just waiting on him to rejoin. Yeah. We could take some call, no? Yes. Ratty, yeah, Dr. Nigel Clarke just get disconnected.
Yeah. You want to take some calls or whatever you want to do? That's fine. I'm at your service, my brother.
Okay. Yes, hello? What are you doing? Oh, it's okay. Hold on. He's back. Okay, just get
my internet went. Just go again for me. I missed the last part of what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying that when you read the statement, right, it's fair to assess that. No, it's not here. It's fair to assess that he wasn't involved. He wasn't that involved in the investigation, because he said he wasn't involved in the wider. Let me. I want to be accurate here. It says he wasn't. It says he was referring specifically to the local aspects of the fraud squad investigation that led to the initial charges against Ms. Panton, and not to the wider dimensions of the SSL probe. Now, his statement gave no such indication. So it's either that he doesn't know what's going on in terms of the, and I mean, you may not, and you've said it before, you may not be the person to answer this question, and I fully appreciate that. But as people looking from the outside in, these are some of the questions that come up.
No, and Rattigan, as I said, it was a very unfortunate statement on Friday. I believe that the statement, clarifies it. There's an apology in the statement, and I would just again just reiterate the policy direction here, which is very clear: no stone unturned. We're going to provide access to international help and follow this wherever it may lead. That is a policy direction. It's very clear. What I would ask Rattigan is that you just allow the the investigation to unfold, allow the members of the security forces to do their job, and to find out, to dig deep and find all persons who are who have not lived up to their responsibilities and crossed the legal line in this regard, and all their collaborators, and support the investigators as they do their work.
Right.
I would say that what we're kind of focusing on here, really is missing the point. The policy direction, is abundantly clear, and I don't think, bringing sort of clarity in this way to what is, a gut punch in terms of a fraudulent activity, I think is important. And I just ask that you support investigators They apologized in that statement. It was very unfortunate remark that was made because it conveyed something that's not accurate. But they have reaffirmed. You didn't read the other parts down when they reaffirmed the involvement of the FBI. They reaffirmed that how helpful it has been so far. But I don't want to. I don't know those words to come out of my mouth because it's not my words; it's theirs. But I would ask you to take their statement and let's focus on
But here's
on
the
the
point. That's very. Here's the point. When you mentioned that I should allow them to do whatever they do, it's not me. It's the others who are directing this investigation. But here's I'm glad you mentioned that I should go back and read, because it says the investigation is being jointly conducted by FID, CTOC. Now we have a CTOC person. It says he's part of the joint investigation here, and he's
but
looking.
Rattigan, if you want to go into that statement, remember that statement.
No, you just sent me to it. You just said.
Yes,
to me,
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Right.
But that statement is what is a statement from the Jamaica Constabulary Force and a statement from the FID. Okay, they listed all of the entities involved, and I believe the purpose of doing that is to convey that this is a multifaceted investigation. Each one of those investigative bodies, you will understand, no doubt, have, even though they overlap in function, they have different kind of things that they are experts and focus in, right? FID is an expert in money laundering and aspects of financial crime. The fraud squad is an expert in fraud. They prosecute frauds every day, right? CTOC has their expertise as well. And what you're seeing in that statement is a collaboration across investigative authorities to make sure that the policy direction is implemented. Okay, and so
I have two questions for you. The policy is fine. I have no issues with the policy. I just have an issue with,
Well, thank you for that, Rattigan. And
yeah,
that's where
I applaud you for that. Yeah. The policy is fine. I have no problems with the policy. I just have the problem with the communication aspect of it. That's all I have.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. I have two more questions. One is this gentleman still a part of the investigation, or has he been disciplined or removed, or what? Or you don't want to talk about that?
Rattigan, I can't speak to that.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask you that you can speak about.
Yeah.
You mentioned unemployment, and you said the unemployment is the lowest it's ever been. But the one thing you didn't talk about, and I'm straying from my area of expertise, but so bear with me if I make mistakes. You didn't talk about underemployment, because it's my understanding that approximately 60%, or maybe even higher, of the population of Jamaica, they earn minimum wage, right? So if you have a population that's earning 60% or higher, in fact, I think the number is 60%, and I think there's another 10% or 11% that are earning below the minimum wage, earning less than $5.50 US per day. So you're talking approximately 70% based on the numbers. What do you say to those people when you stand there and you make the rallying cry that Jamaica is doing great because the unemployment is at a record all-time low, and they're looking at you saying, yeah, we're working, but we're working like for slave labor because we can't afford to feed our families on $60 US, or what's it, $9,000 per week.
That's 50 something US dollars.
57, yeah.
Yeah.
And now you have some of these families.
154, I'm right. 154, 155.
Right. So let me respond to that, Rattigan. Thank you for raising that question.
Yes.
First of all, the statistic about 60% earning minimum wage is not accurate. The average income for Jamaica, which is a published statistic, is about $5,000 US.
A month? Are we? Was it?
No. For the 5,000 US, Jamaica has a GDP per capita, public information, of about $5,000 US.
What is that, per annum or per?
No, Rattigan.
Mm-hmm.
This is public information that Jamaica.
I'm just trying to understand. Is it 5,000 per week, per month, per year?
5,000 per year, and that makes Jamaica a middle-income country in the world. Okay, so when you stack up the 188 or thereabouts countries in the world, middle-income countries like Jamaica make between 5,000 US and some number higher.
Mr. Minister,
that is like 750,000.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the if that is the average, we kind of have 60% of people making minimum wage. That's the only point I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
However, your larger point about the the pay that is associated with uh, jobs, a lot of jobs in Jamaica, um, not being, um, you know, not being extremely high or not being high is a valid point. Okay. In many of the industries, we're not talking about people making 20,000 US or 25,000 US. That's just not the case. We do have jobs that are paying quite a bit below that. What I'd say to you, Rattigan, is development comes in stages. You first have to get jobs. And then when you have jobs, you have to get better jobs. So you use what you have to get what you want. We would be in a worse position if we had no jobs. We're coming from a place, Rattigan, 10 years ago. I'm just using 10 years because a decade is a unit of measurement. When the unemployment rate was 24%. Okay? When 24% of job seeking people had no job, had zero job. And we have brought that 24%, that's 1 in 4 persons who want a job, can't get a job. We've brought that down all the way from 24% to 6.5 or 6.6%. That's almost 1 in 16. That is tremendous step in my view. Now, it doesn't mean the journey is over. It doesn't mean that we have arrived or we have the panacea. But the first step has to be to get jobs. And then, like other countries who have developed, you try to get better jobs. So you take the example of some of the Asian countries, which today have some of the highest per capita incomes in the world. They didn't always have those jobs. They started with agricultural jobs in which they were paid very little. Then they moved to manufacturing jobs. And then from manufacturing jobs, they went to lower service level jobs, and then middle service level jobs, and then higher service level jobs. And that's a journey that we are determined for Jamaica to also take. That where we are now is not a destination. It's just a point along the way. But we use what we have to get where we want to go. As our economy develops, provides more jobs, as the government earns more revenue, we can invest more in education. We can make sure that our labor force is more technically skilled and competent, more adequately trained, so that the jobs that we can attract and retain in Jamaica are higher paying jobs. And that is how we move up the development ladder. But we don't curse what we have. We don't curse what we have. What we do is use what we have to get where we want to go. We all know stories, Rattigan. We all know stories of that faithful and loyal woman who may have a job as a domestic worker and is in a union with a partner who has a job working in the yard. And we do know that they put their hearts and minds towards the task of ensuring that their children have a better opportunity than they had. We know that in Jamaica, it is possible for persons such as that to end up with kids who are prime ministers and doctors and lawyers and FBI agents like yourself. Okay, so the important thing, Rattigan, is to make sure that people who want jobs can get jobs. They may not be high-paying jobs to begin with, but we use what we have, and the path of development goes along the corridors of ensuring that people have jobs to begin with.
Let me just do a follow-up, Wayne.
Yes, follow-up, yes.
Please. This takes me back to my FBI days, where you look at stats and you say crime stats must not only be low, but people must also feel safe, right? There are two aspects to it, at least two aspects. It's not just the crime stats, because you can have crime stats going down, trending downward, but people still feel unsafe, right? Like what I'm hearing about Jamaica. Similarly, you just said that where we are in terms of the job situation, it's not a destination, but it's a reality. And you have just gave us a beautiful speech as to how things
All
are and
right.
where
May I stop to thank you on that compliment, Rattigan?
you're most welcome. You're most welcome. You're giving a beautiful speech.
Yeah.
But I'm from Waterhouse.
And I'm from
That
East
place right
Kingston.
behind me, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
then
Sequence.
I talk to these people. I talk to these people on a daily basis. And the speech you just gave, two things. One is a lot of them don't understand it because the language is not at a level where they can comprehend it immediately. It takes a while. That's number one. And number two is, how does that? They're looking at now and they're saying, wait a minute, whatever he's saying, it's not putting bread in my on my table, it's not feeding my kids. So it doesn't translate. What I'm saying, it doesn't translate to them. And I know what you just said, that you cannot take a selective instance to prove a general statement, but you can take a lot of selective instances to address the general statement. And that's where I'm going with this. A place where I'm from, I mean, you should go down there. I would invite you to go. I'll go with you down there, and you can talk to the people, and you can make the speech you just made, and then ask them tomorrow, the day after, how do you feel? And they're going to tell you that I still feel hungry.
All right.
Still
So
feel hungry.
make up.
Rattigan.
Hold on 1 minute. So what we're gonna do? What you're gonna do for the unattached youth? Remember, you do the budget, What they're gonna do for the unattached youth, and we want to start back some apprenticeship, youth service, and all these things. We have to do something for the unattached youths in the ghettos.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. Look, there are diamonds all over Jamaica. When God spread talent around, he never went to cherry gardens. It's almost as if God just, closed his mind, just spread the talent everywhere, every nook and cranny across the country. And which is why our policies have to be such that we find that wherever it is, whether it's Waterhouse or it's Marvelly, whether it's Tivoli, right, or it's Swallowfield. Now, let me get specific. You asked me a big, broad national question, Rattigan, and I gave you a big, broad national answer. Okay? If you're talking about a specific community, we have to look at the breadth of government policies. And we have a number of policies in place to meet the needs of citizens who face different circumstances in Jamaica. There are citizens who need social support and who could benefit from social support from the government of Jamaica, which is why we have expanded the PATH program and to make sure that persons who are in need have access to consistent resources from the government. Now, we have a lot of work to do in that area to make sure that access is open and that the means testing is consistent with reality, right? That you don't exclude people from the program on frivolous or artificial bases. We have to sort of make sure that persons who need support going to school with food and nutrition, that they have that support. And the programs that we have in government to provide food and nutrition to persons going to school has probably doubled in size over the past several years. And we are trying to reach more and more persons. We have to make sure that there's transportation, there's and subsidies for transportation for kids from communities who need that kind of support. And the government has these programs are in place. What I find sometimes, Rattigan, is that in some communities people don't know how to access the programs that the government has. That's a big challenge and a big problem. Not that the programs don't exist, but people ability to access the program is where we need to do a lot of work. To your question, Wayne, the Heart Trust is in the Prime Minister's ministry, and I'd want to leave him to speak about the details of the technical and apprenticeship programs that the government has in place. But suffice to say that, that landscape is a critical part of education in Jamaica. But, it's not all about academic education. It's all vocational and technical skills and training are a huge part of the development thrust. And I know when I became a member of parliament, one of the first things I did was to bring Heart Trust into the communities. And I had maybe 150 youth, young men, mostly a lot of young men, sign up for heart programs in the community and got certified in a variety of areas. And that's what we sort of need to do at the community level, at the national level, and to make sure that young men, young women know how to access these programs, right? In my constituency, I have also sought to bring these national institutions into the constituency. I remember not too long ago, we brought some of the entities involved in the health side of public life of the health institutions into the communities so that people can have access to them. That's part of the challenge and problem. But guys, I've been with you for an hour.
Before
That
you,
Oh,
no, but wait, no, no, no.
make us say two more things to you, make rather again say two more things. So I see the big budget, 1 trillion, first in the history, 1 trillion. So I want you, I just asking you, please make sure adding adequate amount of money for health system. The health system shabby. The education system, because without health and education, the nation going back way. And the next thing, community policing, this hardcore policing with these youth just lock them up on the SOE. It make I tell you, if you do community policing, we reach a far way better than what we're doing right now. Take it from me.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the community police, and I'll deliver that message. As far you're absolutely correct about the role of health and education, human capital development is the way forward for us to achieve the things we've been talking about on this program.
All right,
Yes.
my turn. Good.
Yes.
Mr. Minister, first of all, sorry that you have to leave so soon because I'm just getting into this conversation. I
will be back, but I have been,
I know.
All right. Just getting
Listen,
warm.
two things. One is
Yes.
the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith. She was unsuccessful in her bid to become the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Now, in that bid, corporate Jamaica spent $99,000 on a company called Fin Partners in New York to do PR work, even though she had a PR budget as well. Now, under your ministry, there is a regulation that says when you get a gift, and it's I think it's on more than 5 million, $199,000 is more than that. When you get a gift, you are required, and it says for all ministers, this is not a may or if you feel like, you have to report this to the ministry, and this as a gift. Now, to the best of my knowledge, this $99,000, and by the way, I do have the foreign affairs, the forms filed with the Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Justice, by Fin Partners, claiming that Kamina Johnson-Smith was their client, not the government of Jamaica. But be that as it may, the benefits flow to the government of Jamaica and Kamina Smith. That form, to the best of my knowledge, has not been filed with your ministry. Now, I requested that from your ministry months ago, yet under the Access to Information Act. To date, I have not received even a response to say we are in receipt of your request. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to make a personal plea to you. This is not a question, this is a plea to you. Please look into that, sir. The second thing I have is this. Mm-hmm. Jamaica lacks leadership. I'm being very frank with you. And if you're frank with yourself, I think deep down, you know this. There's a lack of leadership. And what we find is that people are quick to blame others when the incidents happen within their bailiwick, within their province. They blame others. Case in point, Ministry of Health and Wellness. When he was questioned about the deplorable conditions in the hospitals, he blamed the visitors. I think he even blamed the patients. He blamed the hospital administrators. He blamed the regional hospital administrators. He never once said, "This is my house. I'm responsible." I think you know that. But let me ask you this question before you go. What keeps you up at night?
All right. First of all, on your first point, on the access information, the Ministry of Finance and Public Service prides itself as, a ministry that abides by the letter, the tenets of that act, and we have responded accordingly. So to the extent that you have a request that is outstanding, it's something that I can ask the team at the ministry to look into.
I appreciate that, sir.
Okay. The second thing about, when you tell me stuff about Ministry of Health, that I'm not aware of that information, but I hear what you've said. But you're asking what keeps me up at night. Rattigan, I genuinely believe that Jamaica is entering a space, or has the potential to enter a space, that would provide the best opportunity that we as a country have had in over 50 years. And what keeps me up at night is to make sure that we keep that opportunity alive.
How?
For much of my life, for all of my life, and yours, and Wayne's, Jamaica has been beset by chronic macroeconomic instability brought on by high, unsustainable levels of debt and insufficient reserves in our central bank.
You left out one thing.
Corruption. Yes, sure. Let me come to that. I'm talking about the economic. Hold a second. Has been stymied by chronic levels and unsustainable levels of debt and insufficient reserves in our central bank. These have conspired to hold us back on the ladder of development, with huge boulders on our shoulders, preventing us to move from the first rung of the ladder. We're entering a space, Rattigan and Wayne, where these hindrances will be severely lightened or reduced, and we could even get rid of them as hindrances. And that will provide us with an opportunity that we have not had in over 50 years. We're not there yet, but I think that opportunity should be clear for all who follow the numbers, and I'm speaking as the Minister of Finance here, to see. Because it takes fiscal space, Rattigan. It takes fiscal space to make the kind of investments that can transform communities, that can completely overhaul education and health, and give hundreds of thousands, millions of Jamaicans the chance that they deserve. And what keeps me up at night is to ensure that that opportunity is realized. And we can realize it. We can realize it, and we will, with God's help. I want to thank you for having me.
Before you go, you didn't deal with the corruption issue. You said you'd get to it.
Yes. So in terms of corruption has been a stranglehold, has been a challenge for Jamaica over many, many decades. And the government over time has invested in an anti-corruption infrastructure and framework to allow us to stamp it out, and to ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. All countries of the world suffer from corruption, and indeed, over the past several years, you'll note that it has been a concern among democracies, the best way to deal with this scourge, and Jamaica is no exception. Jamaica, however, differentiates itself, Rattigan. Differentiates itself. You can check. Look at the countries in Central America, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Look at our anti-corruption infrastructure, and we are ahead of them. Give us some credit. One of the things that we have learned from our colonizers is to cuss ourselves and to have a dim view of our achievements and our potential. And we must be aware of that and not inhabit the quotes of our colonizers, to always see the glass of Jamaica as half full, to always see us as being covered in warts. No, not at all. Jamaica, against the odds, against great obstacles, is making strides, is making steps, is building infrastructure that countries with significantly more resources have not done, have not shown the political will to do. Okay, you look at our institutions here and you go around and you find out when much larger countries in our region, when did they put those things in? Some of the laws that we have in place. So we're not, we have a long way to go. We have
Yeah,
a huge
before
problem
you
and
leave
a
though,
long
make I
way to
just
go.
cut you. Make I
But
just cut before you leave.
we are making strides. But I need to go,
No,
Rattigan.
Hold
just
on, hold
one
on.
thing
It's
Let's
though.
good.
not
Hold
open a
on.
new
We
chapter.
have
We're not
those
going
laws.
One last
We have
thing,
those
just
laws. We have
please.
those
So,
laws, and yet still the corruption index is very high. And here's another thing: if
Yeah,
I'm
but
hungry,
remember,
if I'm
Rattigan, the
hungry,
corruption
no,
index.
hold on a
Remember the
second.
corruption
If I'm
index
hungry, if
is a
I'm hungry,
percept.
no,
Sorry, go
if
ahead.
I'm hungry, and you point to someone across the way and say, "Well, he's hungry," that does nothing for me. I'm still hungry. I care about me. So I'm saying is that you cannot. I think it's kind of.
No, I'm not coming. I'm not saying I'm hungry. I'm saying, look what we have been doing to
Yeah,
solve the hunger problem and get
but
food.
but
And I'm
don't
saying,
yeah,
and
but
I'm saying it is relevant though, Rattigan. It is relevant because
no.
the process of no, it is relevant because we're saying people who have similar constraints, who have similar challenges, one of them or a couple of them are showing the resolve to deal with these challenges. I mean, the reason why it is relevant in the same way that you can quote the perception index, you're not quoting that in isolation. You're quoting that in an international context. So you are comparing Jamaica with others,
Well,
and I am as well. And
put
I am
index
saying
aside. Put index aside and ask any no. Put all the studies aside. What I'd like you to do, and I know you know this the answer to this. Ask Jamaicans. Ask Jamaicans. Do you think you live in a corrupt society? Just
yes,
ask them.
and Rattigan, that is something I'm very clear about. That Jamaica has a lot of work to do to
mm.
improve the perception of Jamaicans and, in many cases, the reality
Well,
of corruption in Jamaica.
But before you leave, you just say something though. We in the diaspora, we needed to cut some of those red tape for those poor and needy people. Them can't even open a bank account, and that's true. We need to cut the red tape, and with we sending money back, them getting some problem, and when you call MoneyGram, them telling you that it coming from the finance ministry, right? Them putting something because of the we call it the scamming. But remember, if I sending something to my grandma and I'm doing it over 5 years, why them turning back that money? That
Yes.
grandma needed to buy
So,
a pillar or something. You need to cut some red tape, yeah, and smooth out these kind of things for the benefit of these poor and needy people.
no, thank you for that, Wayne. I can be back to discuss that and other issues in the future. But I
All
want
right.
to really thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure to be on your program. The world
Yes.
is changing, and media is not what it used to be. And it's good to see the innovation and the entrepreneurship that you're displaying.
Yes.
I want to make sure that you invest some of that money that you're making off of this program in Jamaica, right?
You always, so we do a lot of investment though.
There's
Yeah,
a lot,
man.
yeah, man.
You do-
I want you to do a lot. And make sure you can have, I want you to have, make sure you have house and villa and all kind of investment in Jamaica. All right? House in the west, house in the west, house in the east, and the north coast.
No, but no, sir, I look out for the poor and need the poor. I don't, these are
And your philanthropy is going to be important as well.
that is it.
But thank you for your interest in
Yes.
Jamaica. It is persons like yourself who migrate, who do well, and who still remain have Jamaica in the forefront of their consciousness. That is keeping this country going.
Yes.
And we are very grateful to every member of the diaspora, especially during the COVID-19 crisis, who stepped up like never before. And, it kept this country going when we had not $1 from tourism. We had 2.5 billion US dollars of tourism income dry up overnight.
Overnight. That's for sure the poor of the diaspora.
And the diaspora
Yeah.
stepped up. And I
What,
want to big
what
them
about
up,
our vote?
big them up, and
We
to big
put
you
in
up and big
something
Rattigan
because
up as
people
well.
want to
Okay?
vote too.
You want to vote?
People want to vote. So we have to put in something
Wait,
for the
let me
diaspora
ask you a
to fly.
question. What do you think you should have your own constituency? Like, and look, I'm not. This is not my policy area, so nothing. I'm just engaging for a little bit. Do you
All right.
think you should have your own constituency, or you think you should be able to vote register in in any constituency. Like, so you,
No,
do
no,
you
the
think you're
register
biased for
in the
seats?
constituency where you come from, or where you reside before you leave, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Look,
Yes.
those are the conversations we have to have in the future. You
Senate
know,
seat,
not
Senate seat, Senate
huh?
seat, Senate
You want a
seat.
Senate seat.
Yeah.
Senate
All
seat.
right.
Those are conversations we have to have. But God,
Yeah.
blessings,
All
gentlemen.
right.
Thank you for having
All
me.
right.
Yes, man. Take care. All right.
Cheers. Yeah.
Yes,
Bye
man.
bye.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good. Yes, people. Good night. Yeah. Good night. Yes. Yes, man. Nice talk. We have to come back, because we just get warm. We just get warm, so we have to care about Dr. Nigel Clarke, the Minister of Finance. We have to carry him back. You understand? It's a must. We can take a one call here. Right, we can take this one call.
Yeah, man. Got you. Got you.
Yes, hello? Hold on. Call up after call, Yes, hello. Hello.
Yes, good evening. Is Mr. Clark still there?
No, he just leave. Getting call from...
Oh, because I wanted him to reiterate and answer the question, what keeps him away at night? But I'll leave it now because it's still on. I'm not going to...
Okay, no problem. Okay, all right. Okay. All right. All right, cool. Yes, hello. Hello? Hold on. Yes. Cut off. Well, all right. Let's go again. Carla come in like crazy. Whoa. All right. Yes, hello. Yes, hello.
Hello?
Yes, man. Hello. How you doing?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good night, Mr. Rattigan, and good night, Wayne Lonesome.
Good night, sir.
You guys were nursing him for him to stay on the program. I exactly see that because so much things out there to ask, and I know you didn't want to rush him like that. But he didn't come across with nothing. It's just a PR stunt, my opinion, because it's all out there to see. He just come to clean up the whole thing, and I bet all of them were sitting there watching and listening and coaching him on. You see, when he cut off right there, it wasn't an accident. He cut off to get some briefing, quick briefing, and come back because he feel the pressure, But I like how you guys handle the whole matter because I know if you guys had went all out at first, you would have just get off it. But I wanted to ask him, would you say Jamaica is in a better position economically since your administration from the government? And I know he couldn't answer that. So there's so much things to ask him. I wanted to ask him about the guy that from FID that resigned, how much is in his package. There is so much things.
We can't ask everything in a 1 hour, do I don't?
Spend $1 million.
1 hour couldn't do everything, right? 1 hour couldn't do everything.
She spent $1 million to shipping stuff. She cannot. She have to pay 3 times the amount to clear, and it's household item. So it's a whole lot of issue.
That's why I just Carla. That's why I just asked about the red tape because we wanted to, we talk about the poor and needy, and we mean that, the poor and the needy mean everything to us. You understand? Because it all when somebody forgot them bed hungry, So so we can't leave out ghetto never. You understand? Let me take a next call here, sir. Let me take a quick call.
He didn't want to bite him but I see the skills. You know what I'm saying? Like you want him to stay on, so you try your best. But congratulations, you guys try your best, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, bless. Yes, man. Hello. Hello. See, I can't come in. Yes, hello. Hello. Yes, hello. Hello. When I get the call, the ratty, so yeah, man. Say yes, man. Say no, say every man again, man. So we're gonna wrap up. Yeah, man. Keep it real. Over there. Keep it real. All right. Later. We up here. Bless up.
Bless up, brother.